And I now call upon the Assistant Minister for Rural and Maritime Development and Disaster Management, the Honourable Jovesa Vocea. You have the floor, sir.
Honourable Speaker, sir, the Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to add my contribution and lend my full support to the 2023 and 2024 national budget. But before doing so, sir, let me reflect on some of the pertinent issues revolving around the budget debate during the week. Mr. Speaker, sir, when the Honourable Prime Minister was asked on Monday morning during our caucus meeting before we came into this chamber for the debate as to what he expects of us to say during the debate, as usual, he was cool and calm, and this is what he told us. Be yourself. Don't try to be like others. Don't emulate others. Speak the truth and speak with conviction. My interpretation on this piece of advice, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that if you are reading something written by others or somebody else's idea, be careful to fully understand it before you say it. Otherwise, you will get into trouble. Mr. Speaker, sir, what saddens me is the continuous referral from some members of the opposition that their leader is someone else and not the Honourable Inyese Ratu. We all know that the Honourable Ratu was sworn in as the leader of the opposition in this chamber. Not to recognize him is an insult. And that's why some members from the other side of the House are being misguided, since they're taking instructions from somebody else and not the right leader that they should be taking instructions from. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me begin by my response to the budget. I wish to offer my commendations to the Honourable Minister for Finance and his team for a bold, comprehensive and visionary budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, even while still recovering from the unprecedented economic blows of the COVID-19 to our nation's economy, the coalition government has shown through the 2023-2024 national budget our ability to provide steadfast directions and sound consultative leadership. Mr. Speaker, sir, as stated by the Honourable Minister for Finance in his national budget address, the coalition government, although 6 months old with a mandate to deliver change, has walked into a deeply grim state of affairs. Despite this, the coalition government recognizes the need for a carefully thought out budget to address the present and setting a platform and pathway for shaping a better future. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coalition government has carefully crafted the 2023-2024 national budget by prioritizing productive sectors that would drive our economic recovery and revival, and adopting policies and revenue measures that would bring about the change that the Fijian people had been longing for in the last 16 years. It empowers Fijians to fight back in the spirit of rebuilding our future together. Of course, we will feel the pinch of pain in the short term, but a sacrifice for our future gains. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me provide a response to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition and those from the other side of the House by proclaiming that the 2023-2024 budget is a microwave budget. Literature have confirmed that one of the properties of microwaves is that it travels in a straight line. This basically means that policy waves surrounding the formulation of this budget is built on good governance. A straight line where participation, rule of law, transparency, responsiveness, consensus-oriented, accountability, and inclusiveness are the building blocks leading to the formation of this budget. Very straight, where interests of the same kind is not a priority, but the needs of the majority are central to the formulation of this budget, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honourable Bulitavu claimed that this budget was a painful budget. The Honourable Member simply refuses to understand that the decision to increase VAT from 9% to 15% is because of the mess left by the previous government. More than 500 million worth of revenue are lost through selfish and arrogant policies like the film tax rebate. While I see no strategic plan for FRA over the years and losses on capital gain taxes. If the previous government had formulated good policies, we would have the fiscal space to operate on the same VAT rate, but unfortunately, this is not the case. The Honourable Hem Chand, in his budget speech, claimed that this was a hopeless budget. Hopeless to him because he has lots of investment to rely on. For those who are merely struggling and are social welfare recipients or pensioners, this is a hopeful budget for them. They are receiving an increase in allowance in the new budget. Ordinary Fijians will also be able to afford beef, prawns, ducks, and lamb sheep products due to reduction in fiscal duty. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me talk on the core functions of my ministry, and that is rural development. The Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and Disaster Management is grateful for its budget allocation of 29.1 million. The increase in our annual allocation of 14.1 million portrays the coalition government's priority in capitalizing in the development of our rural and maritime communities and effective national disaster management. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coalition government remains committed to improving lives and raising living standards for our people in rural Fiji. The ministry intends to utilize the 2 million funding received under the Community Access Roads, Footpaths and Bridges and Footbridges program to deliver more rural infrastructure projects to increase transportation access to markets and improve accessibility to markets and basic services of government for our rural Fijians. In the last 3 years, the government has invested about 5.6 million for over 230 community access projects throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, through the $1 million allocation to the Ministry's self-help program, Communities will be encouraged to initiate their socio-economic sustainable development projects on a cost-sharing basis. While this will instill a sense of ownership over these initiatives, this arrangement has also eased burdens, especially on those living in our rural and maritime communities who come forward to assess government assistance offered under this program. In the last 3 years, the government has invested about 3.4 million for over 280 multi-sectoral projects. Mr. Speaker, sir, about 10.4% of the rural population rely on high-risk water source. This is equivalent to 8,611 households. Additionally, about 30.5% of rural households use high-risk sanitation in Fiji. This is equivalent to 25,387 households, or 102,996 people in a household of 4 people. The Ministry is pleased that with an allocation of another 0.8 million in the next financial year for its high-risk water sanitation program, we will be able to assist these at-risk vulnerable communities and rural dwellers with the provision of proper sanitation facilities and procurement of purification water systems to treat high-risk water sources for quality water. On reviving our rural economy, Mr. Speaker, sir, invigorating the standard of living in our rural populace remains a key commitment of the coalition government. Intensifying the economic opportunities and creating an enabling environment for these resource-rich communities is the pathway to a vibrant rural economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, for far too long, our rural economy has been neglected. There is a lot of growth potentials in rural Fiji, especially on Vanuatu, our second largest island. Your People's Coalition government is devoted to harness these potentials through creating the right environment and secure financing. I am glad that we have left no stones unturned for the past 6 months to progress work in this area. Mr. Speaker, sir, tourism industry development in Vanuatu is long overdue. We need to develop the infrastructure first, like airports, roads, and the other key infrastructure to boost our tourism market in the north. There is also a great need to develop the infrastructure of villages that are located close to the main towns of Savu and Lambasa. I am glad that the coalition government is progressing work in this area with the provision of 5 million funding provided by the World Bank to support the Vanuatu Tourism Development Program, which aims to support resilient and sustainable tourism development in Vanuatu. Mr. Speaker, sir, the sugar industry is still a key development sector for Vanuatu. The intention to thoroughly review and assess the industry is long overdue. We know that this is an industry that was a backbone of this country many decades ago. A number of urban areas, Lautoka, Ba, and Lambasa, still relies on this industry. And I'm confident that with the allocation of 49.7 million to the sugar unit in the 2023-2024 financial year will enable us to re-strategize and revive this vital industry. Mr. Speaker, sir, we need collective efforts at all levels to revive our rural economy. In the upcoming financial year, the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and National Disaster Management will be working closely with Ministries of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry in complementing each other's programs to ensure our rural people receive the much needed support. they rightfully deserve to enable them to contribute positively to the revival and boosting of our rural economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Rural and Outer Island Development Program is aimed at complementing activities of other agencies in the agriculture, fisheries and forest and communication sectors. Mr. Speaker, sir, the commitment to address long overdue drainage issues across the country under the budget allocation of 22.1 million in the Department of Waterways is appreciated. Furthermore, the budget allocation of 16.1 million for coastal erosion protection, river dredging, watershed management, and rice irrigation scheme is also commended. This will definitely address disaster risk reduction. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also commend the recognition of this government of the contribution by the dairy industry through the budget allocation of $5 million for the new financial year. It is time that the local dairy industry receives the attention it deserves. Mr. Speaker, sir, the plan to construct a new market for sabu-sabu with a budget reallocation of 3.9 million and preparatory works for the Raketi mini market is commendable. One of the objectives of this rural and outer island development is to facilitate easy access to markets. The establishment of such facilities will create an enabling environment to enhance economic growth. Mr. Speaker, sir, without question, our micro and small business enterprises, MSMEs, are classified as strengths in building local economies and bringing innovation that impacts communities. The allocation of $2.5 million for the Northern Development Program, NDP, aims to reignite grassroots entrepreneurship and strengthen resilience through skills training, business management, and economic guidance, all the while contributing to national economic growth. Mr. Speaker, sir, inclusive government remains an epitome of the coalition government as we endeavor to effectively serve and empower our people. Rebuilding the economy will need the collective effort of all stakeholders, including our communities. It is through effective collaboration and dialogue that we can give voice to the ordinary people and incorporate their needs into funding interventions and policies. Mr. Speaker, sir, with this, the increase in allowances for our community leaders is commendable. The allocation of $767,040 for our 302 district advisory councils will support and strengthen the link between government and people at the grassroots level, as divisional advisory council members play a pivotal role in being the coordinating arm of government in the various communities they serve in. In strengthening the Tauke governance structure in our villages and districts, the allocation of a sum of 2.1 million for the increase in monthly allowance for our Turangani Koros and additional 585,800 for increase in allowances for the Matantikinas is very much welcomed. In terms of Itauke empowerment and development, Mr. Speaker, sir, already alluded to by the Honourable Minister for Itauke Affairs, I must commend the concerted effort from our government that charts a pathway in empowering our Itauke communities. The historical reinstallment of the Mboselevu Bokaturanga GCC this year has been restoring, rejuvenating the spirits of the indigenous people in the hopes of improving their socio-economic status. The $2 million allocation for the village improvement scheme and the $4 million allocation for the Tauke land development scheme are just a few of the timely interventions that will enable our resource owners to capitalize on empowering their economic capabilities. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to conclude by saying that the 2023 and the 2024 budget is reflective of a strong commitment by the coalition government to focus on macroeconomic stabilization and implement fiscal policies that achieve a sustained economic growth, stimulate investment, and keeping government debt at a sustainable level. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the best budget ever. This is the budget for now and the foundation for the future. A budget for a new Fiji, and this is the blueprint for Fiji. Mr. Speaker, sir, I concur and fully support the motion that the 2023-2024 budget be endorsed by this August House.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, Honorable Jovesa Vocea.